limits of peak comedy. They've really stretched the genre. Is Austin Krell from the Painted Lines. He also works with me over at The Spark. What's going on, Austin?
What's going on, Vince? Thanks for having me tonight.
Well, yeah, so, Austin, what the hell is going on with the Sixers? That's my question. What the hell is going on right now?
It's a great question. I think as things have sort of gone on and teams have been eliminated from the playoffs, maybe some candidates have become available, and then as a result, there's new rumors being leaked out. But it's just a very messy situation, that's for sure. And they're not very good, I will say, at putting a bow on things.
Well, no. I mean, they got any good feelings I had. They threw it in the toilet. It didn't flush. They keep flushing, and it won't go down. Like, it's just for example, let's go through Elton Brand possibly getting a contract, but Daryl Morey working underneath him. I mean, what is going on with the front office power structure here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they want to give the outward impression that Elton Brand does have the power, and I think even though obviously Keith Pompey's article was pretty damning, but it's my understanding that Alex Rucker and Ed Cohen are not as involved as was indicated, and maybe made out to be, and so I think what we might be seeing here is the Sixers. If you look at history with them, they don't really. Really, except for Brett Brown, they haven't really gone to the length and the depth of actually firing people. Rather, they have a history of, reshaping or reorganizing and sort of just kind of changing roles, kind of like how the Eagles did with Howie Roseman when they brought in Chip Kelly. And so, I think what we're seeing here is that they're trying to, give some time for those guys to sort of figure things out and what their next venture in their careers are going to be before they, before they give them the boot. So I think they want to make it appear as it's not like a PR disaster, and they want to make it seem like, oh, they got opportunities elsewhere.
Well, man, I mean, if they don't want to make it seem like a PR disaster, they might want to think again. But, I mean, my goodness, it just looks terrible. So in that case, then, we're talking with Austin Krell from the Painted Lines. So does this mean that Elton Brand is going to be like an actual general manager?
Wouldn't that be something, right?
Well, yeah.
Imagine that, the GM being the GM. So I think he's going to have a more active say and a more active hand in how things are handled with this organization. I think a lot of that's because they've put it out there that they were a collaborative group, and there was no centralized decision making. And if you put Elton Brand at the face of it and you put him in power, if the next set of decisions goes badly, then you can also put that on him, and then let him go. But if they're going to extend him, it's certainly very confusing as to the power structure there. But I think you're always going to have some ownership involvement because that's the kind of ownership group that this is. But I think now Elton Brand has a much bigger role in the decision making than he did in the past.
Okay, so. Now here the question is regarding coaching, right? Because the report also indicates that, okay, Mike DAntoni is clearly the leader in the clubhouse for the job. So what do you make of DAntoni as the head coaching choice for the Sixers?
Sure. So, I mean, there's been some steam with him in Indiana, too, and that kind of extended prior to, Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN reporting it, that there was interest from him in the Pacers. And he also has connections with Donnie Walsh there as well from his time in New York. So that's a possibility. But Philadelphia also is, coming up the chain as well, and they're making a lot of inroads with Mike DAntoni. One thing that I think we have to really consider here is the fact that you're always going to have the LeBron connotation with Tyronn Lue. And, with that comes Ben Simmons. So Ben Simmons is going to have a connection with Tyronn Lue. And, I think the longer this goes on, the more it looks like, hey, maybe Ben Simmons isn't the one they're trying to appease here. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it's Joel. Maybe it's there's someone else that's driving this decision. But I do believe that it's not as defined as it once was. I think previously it was very, 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 very heavily in favor of Tyronn Lue. And I think as time has gone on since the Clippers got eliminated, things have definitely, got heavier, more interesting for Mike D'Antoni.
Now, the other guy that was supposed to be in the coaching search was Billy Donovan. He was the third guy. He's taking a job in Chicago. I mean, did the Sixers miss out here? What do you make of Billy Donovan going to Chicago?
So I think there have been rumblings for a while with the Sixers coaching job, and it stemmed back from last year when they lost to Toronto. Brett Brown thought he was gone, and it took Elton Brand and Joel Embiid really saving Brett Brown's job. But there had been murmurs back then, so that's over a year. There have been some sort of rumors about Brett Brown and who the next coach would be, and there's been a long history with Tyronn Lue and Mike D'Antoni with the Sixers and in terms of the rumors. And so I think it's really been those two this entire time. I think, I think Billy Donovan is a good coach. And I think, the Chicago opportunity makes a lot of sense for him, but I don't believe he was ever truly, high up on their wish list for candidates.
Okay, so let's move on then, because the Sixers are just agitating me and it's driving me nuts. Let's go to the NBA playoffs, which, the Sixers got swept out of, but that's neither here nor there. You got the Heat and the Celtics, and they just played, Game 4 of that series tonight. What do you make of that series, and is this the Heat series to lose now?
Oh, absolutely. I think the Heat are in the driver's seat. I've said against the Milwaukee Bucks, I kind of mentioned on my own podcast that it wouldn't surprise me that much if Milwaukee was fine with a healthy Giannis. If Milwaukee was finally the team to overcome that 3-0 deficit, but the Heat put them away. They're up 3-1 here. I expect them to put that team away. But when it comes down to this Miami Heat team, they have a bunch of guys like Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Derek Jones Jr., Goran Dragic. A lot of guys that are role players. Some of whom that they've drafted very well. They've picked up off of the scrap heaps and as undrafted free agents, and they've molded them and they've developed them and they've empowered these players to be the best version of themselves, and they've put confidence in them. And that's one thing that Sixers have not done very well at all, is actually valuing cheap talent in the draft and in the undrafted free agency pool. And this Miami Heat team is certainly led by Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. But we cannot neglect that Goran Dragic and their role players are tremendous. I mean, Kendrick Nunn was undrafted free agent. He had some controversies that hurt his draft stock previously, and it ended up leaving him undrafted. But they got him undrafted free agent. Duncan Robinson's now one of the 5 best shooters in the NBA as an undrafted free agent. So, the Miami Heat have done a tremendous job of putting this team together around Jimmy Butler, and they're coached supremely well. And we're seeing, this isn't a star-studded, sexy team. But this team plays well together. They play tremendous defense. They don't make mistakes. And they're in very good position to win this series.
All right, so we're talking with Austin Krell of the Painted Lines. And last question for you, Austin, then is, I hate to say this, but if the Heat are going to win that series and they're going to the finals, are we actually going to see Jimmy Butler win a championship?
I've doubted the Heat all season long, and I am done doubting them. I think, regardless of how you put it, I think they have a very good chance of beating whomever they might face. I think LA poses some problems for them because I think Adebayo is very dynamic and very athletic. And it isn't like you're just, trying. I mean, Jokic is a tremendous player, but he can't move with Anthony Davis the way, that Anthony Davis can move. So I think the Miami Heat have shooters that Lakers don't have. And whether you put it on the Nuggets side of things, they still have a more dynamic and, more athletic and quicker big in Adebayo as well with better shooters. So I think the Heat are very well could win this championship.
Okay, yeah, Austin, I'm going to have to let you go after that. That's not the answer I wanted to hear. But I appreciate you taking a couple of minutes, man. Austin Krell from the Painted Lines also works with me at The Spark. Austin, thanks so much, man.
Take care. Thanks, man.
All right, take it easy, man. So.